Hi, thanks so much for joining. Today I wanted to talk about a milestone that I achieved over the weekend. So, I finished my first triathlon, which was a goal of mine for quite a while. So, I am so happy that I was able to achieve that huge milestone for me over the weekend. I wanted to talk about my triathlon experience and get into a little bit of detail about the training that I did, and then talk about what I learned from doing my first triathlon. So let's get right into it. The triathlon that I did was a sprint triathlon, so it is a shorter distance triathlon. In a sprint triathlon, the sections are broken up as follows. So for the swim, it's a 500-meter swim, which is about a quarter mile. For the bike ride, it's a 20K, or roughly 12.4 miles. And then the run is a 5K, or a 3.1 mile run. The triathlon that I chose to do was a local one. I didn't want to travel too far for my first triathlon. So this one was at McNear's Beach, which is in the Bay Area. And this was part of the Marin Endurance Festival. So the Marin Endurance Festival is a 2-day event. On Saturday is the day where they do the triathlons. So they have the sprint distance, which is what I did, and then they also have the Olympic distance, which is essentially double what I did. And then the second day on Sunday, they have a bunch of running events. So they have a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon. The event itself was really cool. I think I definitely want to do it again, and it seems like the run was also a fun event, so maybe I'll try that next year. The location itself, McNear's Beach, was absolutely beautiful. It was a gorgeous sunny day, which was really nice because usually it's foggy in the Bay Area, so I was super happy to get a nice and sunny day. The event itself was very fun. It was very well organized. There were lots of vendors that were there, and in general, the location itself was really beautiful. It was right along the water, so I loved it, and I definitely want to just go to that beach for fun in the future. The triathlon itself had people from all different skill levels, all different ages, so it was definitely a very welcoming environment. I was nervous going into it, but all the people that I met were very nice and super encouraging. And then there were also some really fast elite athletes too, so it was really cool to be able to see them do the triathlon and see how fast they are, and see the amount of training that they've put into it. So it was really cool to be able to not only be with people that are new to triathlons like I am, but also see the absolute best of the best as well. So next I wanted to go into each piece of the race and just talk about it a little bit, and then give some of my input and give my experience. So the first part of the triathlon was the 500-meter swim. Now this swim was in open water, which is very different than swimming in a pool. There are currents that you have to deal with. The water is much colder. Just a lot of environmental factors come into play for open water swimming. The Bay Area water is super cold during this time of year, so I definitely wore a wetsuit to keep myself warm. And I would say that the swim was actually my favorite part of the whole triathlon. I grew up swimming, so it was something that I'm very comfortable with in general. The water was definitely cold, but I think the wetsuit really helped me a lot. And it was just a beautiful swim. There wasn't that much current, which was really nice, so I didn't feel like I was, swimming against a strong current. The water was pretty mellow, which was really nice, and it was very refreshing. The sun came out, so it was just a perfect swim. Now, the interesting thing about open water swimming is that, at least in the Bay Area, you can't actually see anything in the water. So it's pretty much just like super murky. So basically, during the swim, the hardest part is just not being able to see anything in the water. So I felt like I had to keep bringing my head up and making sure that I'm going the right way. But overall, the swim experience was super positive. I had a lot of fun. And when I finished the swim, one thing that I noticed with open water swimming is that I always feel a little bit disoriented after the swim. Even though there wasn't that much of a current, I still felt very wobbly getting out of the water. So after the swim, I ran into the transition area. And for this transition, I basically took off my wetsuit. Underneath my wetsuit, I was wearing a triathlon suit. So it's basically like a one piece suit that has a zipper in the front. And the triathlon suit has a tiny bit of padding to make the bike ride a little bit more comfortable. And the good thing about the triathlon suit that I was wearing is that it's made of a quick drying material. So even though the triathlon suit is wet, when I took off the wetsuit, after biking for a few minutes, it dried off. So during this transition, like I said, I took off the wetsuit and then I put on my shoes. I put on my running shoes because I'm still scared of using clip-in shoes for the bike. I've fallen over quite a few times while testing them out, so I just felt comfortable using my normal running shoes. And then I was off to start the bike ride. And the bike ride itself was extremely beautiful. The path that we took was along the water for most of it, and there was a bunch of rolling hills. There was one hill that was challenging that I needed to do, I think it was 3 times. So I definitely was out of breath during the bike part. But overall, it was just a very pretty bike ride. Again, super sunny. I was able to dry off pretty quickly. And everyone was also super supportive. The cool thing about this event was that all of the bibs for the participants had the participant names on them. So sometimes when people were passing me on the bike, they would say, "Good job, Nikki. Keep it up, Nikki." So it was like a very supportive environment, and it was just a lot of fun. Another super cool thing about the bike ride was seeing the elite bikers pass me. So they had these very aerodynamic, like carbon fiber bikes, and they also had these really cool helmets that pretty much look like I don't know how to describe it. It was basically like a spaceship. So yeah, it was really cool watching the elite bikers, and they would go, down the hills super fast, and it was just so cool to see them do their thing, basically. So after the bike portion, I went back into the transition area. So this second transition was a lot easier than the first one. I basically just had to re-rack my bike, take off my helmet, and then just take off running and to do the 5K. So the hardest part for me during this triathlon was definitely the run. one thing that I did not practice a lot of was running after doing a bike session. So my legs pretty much felt extremely heavy, and I basically felt like I had jelly legs. So it was really hard to kind of get going during the run. During the run portion, there was also some hills that I had to do, and that pretty much wiped me out, I would say. The hills were really hard, and I probably should have walked on the hill, but I had so much adrenaline, so I thought, yeah, I might as well just run. In general, I'm also a very slow runner, so people kept passing me, but everybody was, again, like the bike portion, everybody was super encouraging and really supportive throughout the whole thing. And during the run portion, I actually had to use the bathroom. So I had to use a porta potty and, just like quickly take off my tri-suit, do my business, and then continue on the run. The run pretty much wiped me out. My legs were extremely tired by the end of it, and, I was just doing my little slow turtle run, but I was able to finish the race, which was my goal for this triathlon. And the finish was really nice. They had this like inflatable finish, sign, and everybody was cheering, and it was just a wonderful experience and so much fun. Yeah, I'm very proud of myself. My goal was to finish a triathlon, and I was able to do that. So it was just a really great experience overall. I wanted to talk a little bit about the training that I did for the triathlon. So I actually didn't do too much preparation for this race. My goal was just to finish it, so I didn't really take the training too seriously, or I didn't put that many miles or that much time into it. I already felt comfortable swimming because I used to swim when I was younger and I really love it. So the swim portion of it wasn't something that I was very nervous about. I would say the piece of the triathlon that I was most nervous for was the run, because I'm an extremely slow runner. It's very hard for me and it doesn't come naturally to me at all. So because I was not very comfortable with running, I tried to aim for roughly 2 runs per week, and I didn't run more than, I would say, I think my longest run in preparation for this was about 5 miles, and the 5K is about 3.1 miles. So I was able to run more than the distance that was in the triathlon. But yeah, I would say about 5 miles was my longest training run for this triathlon. And I tried to do 1 run outside per week, and then the second run I usually did on a treadmill, just to kind of get my heart rate up and get my legs used to moving. And then for the bike ride, I tried to do 2 bike rides per week. So one of them would be an endurance training ride on the Peloton. So I found those classes to be really helpful just to build my biking endurance. And then I tried to do 1 bike ride outside per week, and I did this by just incorporating the bike ride into my schedule. So usually on Saturdays I like to go to the farmers market, and instead of taking the bus to the farmers market, I decided I would bike there. So just finding ways to incorporate biking into my schedule was really helpful for me. I did have a couple of setbacks during my training. I wanted to train more, but before my triathlon, I ended up getting wisdom tooth surgery, so I had to have all 4 of my wisdom teeth removed, and the recovery was a lot longer than I had anticipated. I wanted to do more, like, even though I didn't have any injuries to my legs or something that would have stopped me from, being able to run or bike. The challenging thing about the wisdom tooth surgery was that pretty much any exercise that I did that would raise my heart rate would cause my teeth to hurt, and it was just really painful, and I needed to wait until I was recovered before I could kind of start up my training again. I tried to do like little walks and things like that, but I would say the wisdom tooth surgery definitely put me back a few weeks on my training. And then another setback I had while I was training for this triathlon was after my wisdom tooth surgery, after I felt fully recovered, I ended up getting sick, and this really sucked because I got sick and I had this cough that wouldn't go away, so it made doing any sort of running or biking or even swimming really difficult to do because I was having a hard time breathing. So I would say that put me back in my training another week. So I wanted to do more training, but these setbacks happen, and the distance for the sprint triathlon, I had done this distance that was required for the swim and the bike and the run separately. So I still felt comfortable, going forward with it, even though I didn't have as much of the training as I would have wanted. Finally, I want to talk about some of the things that I learned while training for this triathlon and then actually finishing it. So the first thing I learned is that setting goals works. Now, this sounds super cliche, but I've always heard of the importance of setting goals for yourself, setting attainable goals for yourself, and then that feeling once you reach that goal, you feel super fulfilled. And I definitely felt that way while doing this triathlon because, a few months ago, I set a goal for myself. I signed up for the triathlon, and then it was something it was something tangible on my calendar, so I was working toward it. I knew it was coming, and then actually completing it was a really good feeling. So setting incremental and tangible goals is something very valuable that I got to experience while training for this triathlon. The second thing I learned was that I am more capable than I think. So I have a tendency to doubt myself. And so doing something like this, where I had a goal and I was able to achieve it, made me feel like I am more capable than I give myself credit for. So through this experience, I basically just learned to kind of trust myself a bit more, and then I learned that I am more capable than what I think I can do. So it was just a very positive experience overall. The third thing I learned is that smiling through things really helps. So one goal that I set for myself while doing this triathlon was to smile as much as I can through the whole thing. And I really did that. And I think it really helped me a lot because it put me in a very positive mindset. Even though my legs were hurting, I was like, I'm doing this awesome thing and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I'm just going to keep smiling through the whole thing. So I think just smiling through the whole experience was really helpful for me. The next thing I learned was leaving my ego behind. So, in the previous episode, I talked a little bit about my perfectionism and what perfectionism looks like in my life. And this is a perfect example of kind of working through my perfectionism. So, essentially, through this whole experience, I left my ego behind. I just accepted where I was at in terms of my athletic abilities. And my whole goal throughout this experience was to have fun and enjoy myself and not think about, what place I finish or how fast I am in the run or how slow I am in the bike ride, whatever it is. Leaving my ego behind really made it so that I could stay present and enjoy the experience. The next thing I learned is remembering the why. So I think this is very important because training for anything or doing the same thing over and over again can become very boring, very monotonous. There were definitely days where I was like, I don't want to swim, I don't want to train for this, I really don't want to run, whatever it might be. So for me, remembering why I wanted to do a triathlon really helped me through these moments. And doing a triathlon has been a goal of mine for a really long time. It's just something that I wanted to do and something that always seemed like a really big achievement. My why was basically being able to set a goal for myself and then following through with it and feeling proud of it. So that's really the reason why I did the triathlon. And it's also something that I've wanted to do for as long as I remember. So actually following through with it was a big motivator for me while I was doing the race. The next thing I learned is allowing myself to be proud of an accomplishment. So doing this triathlon was a big accomplishment, and I gave myself the space to be proud of it and really just feel happy for myself that I was able to do something out of my comfort zone and follow through with it and finish it. So just giving myself the space to be proud was something that I really valued through this whole experience. And then the final thing I learned is something that I touched on a little bit before, but essentially proving to myself that I can do something. So a few months ago, I decided, you know what? I've wanted to do a triathlon for as long as I remember. Why not do it now and just commit to doing it? So through this whole experience, I was able to prove to myself that I set a goal and then I was able to achieve it. And even though it was hard, I was able to smile through it, have fun, enjoy it, and then also finish the triathlon. So yeah, that's all I have for today. I just wanted to share this exciting milestone. I feel super proud of myself that I was able to do a triathlon, and I had so much fun doing it. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.